Welcome to the Rise Above Project. I'm your host, Joe Perroni. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, champion bodybuilder, and I've been a personal trainer for about 30 years. This podcast is about helping people with their emotional, spiritual, and physical fitness. I value strength, toughness, and truth. I despise complacency, the victim mentality, and following the herd. If you find my work to be valuable, please subscribe to my channel and tell a friend. Today, I want to talk about the intermittent fasting diet. I decided to do this show because this diet has been increasing in popularity the last few years. I believe its popularity has increased due to good marketing techniques, spokespeople with seemingly good resumes, and of course, YouTube content creators. In my analysis, I will be referring to some individual people by name to make my points, but I will also refer to some people without mentioning their names, because I don't want to contribute to a fake superficial culture where some people are considered to be leaders and influencers in the industry just because they have a lot of views and subscribers. I will also give you some ideas on how to decipher fact from fiction when reading through the literature or watching the videos. There are a few different types of intermittent fasting diets, but I will refer to the most popular plan. Time-restricted feeding involves eating only within certain hours of the day. Intermittent fasting is a strategy for when an individual eats, not for what an individual eats. And that's the first problem, but I'll get to that a little bit later. The most popular plan is 16-8. The plan calls for a restriction of all food for 16 hours, followed by an 8-hour window where the individual is allowed to eat. In looking at the literature, the problems jump out immediately, and here is an example of the first sentence in a number of articles that I've read. Quote, intermittent fasting is a popular weight loss program that is fast becoming a weight loss craze, unquote. This first sentence reveals an astounding amount of ignorance and reveals that many of those who are pushing this agenda have no credibility. No true professional in the fitness or health and wellness industry would ever verbalize the words weight loss or weight loss craze without educating the public on why those layman terms are not appropriate indicators of a successful program. Weight loss is not the issue, and weight loss has nothing to do with being healthy. I have a client that had to undergo chemotherapy and radiation to fight cancer. He lost about 80 pounds, but that has nothing to do with being healthy. Professionals do not talk about losing weight. The correct aspect is to target fat loss, not weight loss. The goal is to accrue muscle tissue and to decrease body fat. If an individual gains 3 pounds of muscle and loses 3 pounds of fat, he or she will weigh the same, but they will be significantly leaner, healthier, and their metabolism will increase. When weight is lost indiscriminately, the cost is usually muscle loss, which leads to a slower metabolism and increased difficulty in losing fat, and a greater likelihood of regaining fat after it is lost. In addition, professionals don't push diets. We highly suggest nutritional programs and healthy lifestyles. Now, some may say that this is just a semantics issue, but it is important to point out language that is at best careless, and at worst is ignorant and reveals a severe lack of professionalism. How productive is it to fast for a minimum of 16 hours per day when trying to live a healthy lifestyle? That depends a great deal on the individual being able to consistently follow a program that many people find to be restrictive. It's possible to follow it, but it also might not be a good long-term approach. The average person sleeps about 7 hours per day. This means an individual trying this plan would have to be awake, going about their business, and working out for a minimum of 9 hours without eating. Neither of my parents lived a healthy lifestyle, and their daily routines were very similar to the intermittent fasting diet. They both would sleep about 7 hours per night, and then they wouldn't eat breakfast. Breakfast for both of my parents would probably consist of coffee and cigarettes, which adds no calories, but it can help diminish appetite. And by the time they actually ate anything, it was close to a 16-hour fast, probably more. And they ate only 1 to 2 meals per day. Both of my parents suffered with complications from diabetes. My parents were not unusual. There are plenty of unhealthy or overweight people who report that they don't eat very much, and some do resort to using stimulants such as caffeine or nicotine for energy and appetite suppression. One of the great things about bodybuilding at the higher levels is that success leaves clues. And what have we learned from successful bodybuilders over the last 50 years? Many things, actually. But for today's topic, let's just talk about this. I know of a few people in the fitness industry who have experimented with intermittent fasting, but only after they have already achieved a significant level of development. And the same can be said for vegan diets. Yes, Arnold Schwarzenegger is reportedly now following a vegan program, but he never achieved his success in bodybuilding while being a vegan. I am not aware of any high-level bodybuilders that have used intermittent fasting instead of utilizing multiple timed proportioned meals consisting of high protein, low glycemic index carbs, and essential fats to obtain their success. Of course, the macronutrients can be manipulated based on many factors such as the individual's genetics, activity levels, stress, age, and so forth. The best nutritional programs are easy to comply with and meet the nutritional requirements to support a healthy human being. People who are trying to sell the idea that there is only one correct way to achieve results are usually just taking advantage of the latest trend. The best bodybuilders in the world in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, they dieted on whole milk and eggs. In the 80s, high protein, high carbs, and low fat was in. In the 90s, more bodybuilders were experimenting with low carb, high fat diets. The point is that every nutritional program works if you follow it, if it properly nourishes the body, and if it recognizes that too many calories of any kind, good or bad, will lead to storage in the way of fat accumulation. Unfortunately, many people who are trying to sell intermittent fasting as a lifestyle are also trying to sell the lie that the amount of calories one consumes does not matter. The amount of calories does matter, as do the source of where those calories come from. As long as a person is compliant, almost all fad diets will work in the short term if the goal is to lose body weight. However, fad diets are usually restrictive, are difficult to comply with long term. They may not be healthy, and through calorie restriction, they prioritize losing weight at any cost as opposed to lowering body fat percentage. An example is the HCG diet. Of course, anyone who has the willpower and a touch of masochism to live on 500 calories per day will lose weight. But I can assure you that it's not healthy, it's not a lifestyle plan, and is a very good way to diet off lean muscle. The intermittent fasting diet can also work. The reason why it works is because it does help to lower insulin levels. And in the end, it does restrict calories by allowing only a maximum of 8 hours to eat. But let's take a practical look at this. The average man's basal metabolic rate is 1,800 calories, and the average woman's basal metabolic rate is 1,400 calories. The basal metabolic rate is the bare minimum of calories a person needs to maintain their weight if they don't expend any energy. The average woman following the intermittent fasting diet eats 2 meals per day. So this means she would have to consume 700 calories per meal just to get her basal metabolic rate needs met. And of course, that number would be much higher because obtaining food, eating food, living life, and hopefully exercising, they all take extra calories. But let's just go with the basal metabolic rate for now. Let's take a look at what 700 calories actually looks like. 16 ounces, which is a pound, that's a huge amount. 16 ounces of 99% lean ground turkey is only 480 calories. To reach the 700 calorie quota, you could add 1 cup of white rice with the turkey. I don't recommend white rice because it does spike insulin levels and it has no nutritional value. If you wanted to reach the 700 calorie quota in a healthier manner, you could choose to eat, get this, 1.5 pounds of broccoli. So let's review. The average woman trying to meet her basal metabolic rate needs, within an 8-hour or less of a feeding window, she would have to eat the equivalent of 2 pounds of lean ground turkey and 3 pounds of broccoli. There are many problems here. Let's talk about a few. Number one, most people can't eat that much food on a daily basis. The average person will then eat less food, thereby turning the diet into just another calorie deficit program. Number two, there is not a well-articulated message to have people eat the most nutritious foods possible. Again, it's a program of when to eat, not what to eat. It encourages people to eat poorly because to get the appropriate amount of calories, one may have to resort to eating calorically dense and nutritionally dead foods, such as white rice. And this, of course, leads to the dreaded insulin spike. If a person just consumed various vegetables throughout the day as a carbohydrate source, their blood sugar would be lower than if they fasted for 16 hours and followed it with an inferior carb source. Number three, the intermittent diet is a way to lower blood sugar by not eating for long periods of time. And that does work. However, the biggest proponents and practitioners of the diet fail to recognize that physical activity has many benefits and therefore is a far healthier way to lower blood sugar than telling people to not eat for 16 hours. If you don't believe that that's true, then you should see many of my lower income clients I see in my therapy practice. Their finances force them to go without food for at least 16 hours per day on a regular basis. And yes, they might be skinny, but they are not a model of vibrancy and health. And yes, you can be skinny and have a high body fat percentage. In my 40 years in the health and fitness industry, I have never seen anyone not be able to lower their blood sugar if they are consistently following a healthy nutritional program with appropriate exercise. There are many healthy ways to become more insulin sensitive, such as more sleep, more exercise, less stress. Consume more vegetables, herbs, spices, green tea, and apple cider vinegar. Fad diets pop up every year as a new attempt to reinvent the wheel and to make money off of vulnerable people. So just for fun, let's take a quick walk through the graveyard of fad diets, which have included the Scarsdale diet, South Beach diet, Beverly Hills diet, cabbage soup diet, grapefruit diet, Atkins, Zone, Ornish, Blood Type, Pritikin, Weight Watcher, Slim Fast, Jenny Craig, juicing diets, cleansing diets, and there's a million more. All these were touted as the latest and greatest, and most ended up being nothing more than a cash grab for people who value money more than people. The popularity of the intermittent fasting diet is largely the result of the work of Dr. Fung, Dr. Mosley, Dr. Gendro, and Martin Beckham. It is prudent to make sure the source of the information has the correct qualifications to garner the respect, the influence, and many times the money that these people are seeking. As far as I can tell, Martin is popular on YouTube and is Instagram famous. He has never competed with any distinction in any bodybuilding competitions that I know of. In the social media world, it is not unusual for young people to be pushing diet plans, but their age and genetics are their biggest allies. When I was young, I didn't have enough money to follow a great nutritional program, but it didn't matter that much. I bulked up on whole milk and liverwurst because it was cheap and it was nutritionally dense. And I got to find for bodybuilding shows with 3 small cans of tuna and 8 slices of white bread per day. I didn't let my finances stop me from competing. Although my diet was extremely poor, I had youth and some genetics on my side, which did help me to win, not just compete, but to win many shows. And to be clear, don't be fooled by Instagram famous people making comments about getting lean, especially if they are under 30 years old. I would also warn people to be aware of filtered Instagram models who model how to have smooth, wrinkle-free skin if they are also under 30 years old. The intermittent fasting diet seemingly has very credentialed advocates. Dr. Fung is a nephrologist. Dr. Mosley is a non-practicing medical doctor, and Dr. Gendro is a primary care doctor. But here's my question. How many classes in nutrition is required to become a medical doctor? The answer is probably 0. There are no nutritional class requirements for a medical school candidate. Once accepted, only 27% of medical schools even offer any classes in nutrition. According to the official list of requirements for those specializing in cardiology, internal medicine, and primary care physicians, there are 0 requirements for nutrition. Being a medical doctor does not in any way make them an expert in nutrition, exercise, or physical transformations. Most doctors who portray themselves as experts in the nutrition and training fields are definitely working outside their scope of practice, and they might be frauds. They are no more qualified to give diet advice than they are to be a lawyer or an airline pilot. Being a doctor is not a catch-all term for knowing everything. In conclusion, it is my personal and professional opinion that if an individual decides that health and wellness is important, then they should choose a healthy lifestyle that is manageable. Don't look for fad diets if you're interested in fitness. Increase your activity. Eat nutritious foods. Cultivate meaningful relationships. And live your best life. I hope you enjoyed today's show. I am Joseph Perroni from the Rise Above Project. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.